Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Blue Bounty Hunter channel. Now with the first episodes of The Mandalorian Season 3 putting more and more emphasis on the culture of Mandalore, I thought it would be a good time to dive into the armor that defines these infamous warriors, going over how it changed over time and every variation to the armor, as well as how the Mandalorian history shaped their most defining feature. And starting with the origins of the Mandalorians, the revered warriors existed for around 10,000 years, starting close to 9,991 BBY. The history of Mandalore starts with the Taung, which were a humanoid species originating from the core world planet of Coruscant. After being driven from the planet by another warrior race known as the Zell, the Taung, led by Mandalore the First, would eventually travel to a new planet and then a new one after that in the Outer Rim, which they would name Mandalore after their leader. This planet was unoccupied other than the large, intimidating creatures known as the mythosaurs, which would later become extinct. And these beasts were so important to the Mandalorians who hunted them that they would become a symbol of Mandalorian culture, literally. And obviously you can see this throughout the Mandalorian show, as well as other elements of Star Wars. The Taung started to accept other species as Mandalorians too, which significantly changed their culture as a whole. The Taung species was gray-skinned, strong with yellow eyes and bony ridges on their skulls, and they were well over 6 feet on average, so they were said to be about 2 meters on average, and they would be later known as the progenitors. These progenitors actually started the use of Mandalorian armor with their unique masks that were shaped to their faces. And other than the masks, however, the Taung believed in sparse armor, and they thought it was the most honorable way to combat opponents. During the Sith Wars and eventually the era of the Old Republic, the Mandalorians conquered more and more worlds, creating their own Mandalorian sector. And due to their powerful leaders, this led to the Taungs eventually being eclipsed by their fellow warriors as they fought more and more wars. Honestly, I feel like these guys probably had OCD or something. Like every time they see a planet they haven't enslaved, their immediate instinct is to just conquer it without thinking. I guess you really couldn't catch a break in those days. But now that I've gone over their origins a little bit, I'll be diving into the Neo Crusaders, who are basically like the first variant of Mandalorians and the first version of the Mandalorians that had some cool armor. But as the Jedi rose to power in the Old Republic, the Mandalorians started a galactic event known as the Mandalorian Wars, which were fought between the protectors of the Republic and the warriors of Mandalore. This led to new armor being required over that of the primitive Taung coverings. This created the Neo Crusader armor, which was harder and stronger than the previous Crusader models that came before it. Colors were actually used to show ranks. Blue indicated a recruit or anyone without a leadership position. Red indicated a rally master, and gold was for field marshals. The Neo Crusader shock trooper was a later variant of the armor, and these shock troopers were for conflicts where the form of battle was somewhat unknown, such as in underground tunnels, congested urban areas, or even spacecraft. The shock trooper armor was customized to many extreme uses, such as spending over 24 hours in space, which is pretty crazy if you ask me. They were also equipped with electro binoculars, jetpacks, personal energy shields, and even vibroblades. So basically the shock troopers of these Neo Crusaders were even more complex and powerful than just the standard Crusaders themselves. While the Mandos and Jedi fought for millennia, there is actually an example of how the two came together. And around 10,050 BBY, the Mandalorian Tar Vizsla became a Jedi, and to show his Mandalorian independence, created his own lightsaber known as the Darksaber. After his death, the Jedi recovered the blade and stored it in their temple. Unfortunately, the Mandalorians would later strike the Republic at its heart and take back the Darksaber from the temple, which would make it a symbol of leadership in their people. But now, I'll actually be moving into the next phase of Mandalorian armor, which kind of came with the Death Watch and this new Super Commando type armor. Standard Mandalorian armor was made of Beskar or Beskargam in their language, which translated to iron skin. Although some like Jango Fett and Boba Fett used Durasteel in their armor, which was less valuable, and while less durable, it was still usable. But do note that those two characters of course still had Beskar in their armor, they just also had some Durasteel. Around the time of the final conflict between the Jedi and the Mandalorians, which led to the cataclysmic event that turned Mandalore's surface into a barren, uninhabitable wasteland of a desert, the armor would morph into the Mandalorian Super Commando, which had a sleeker design with less bulky armor and the classic T-shaped visor. The armor actually consisted of a smaller plated armor linked together by a thin crafted layer of protection that was easier to maneuver in. Also, like the previous Neo Crusader shock troopers, this new form of armor came equipped with multiple weapon additions to it, like wrist rockets, flamethrowers, personal energy shields, jetpacks, and more. The list goes on. With this new armor and the defeat of Mandalore, the remaining Mandalorian traditionalists were split into multiple factions with their own unique armor. These groups included the Death Watch with their gray and blue armor that were viewed as terrorists. Also, female Mandalorians like the Night Owls existed during this time, and they had their own unique armor with differently shaped visors and armor to match their build. Also, a crimson-clad group known as Maul's Super Commandos were created to fight against the Mandalore resistance led by Bo-Katan when Maul rose to power with his Shadow Collective alongside Pre Vizsla, who he ended up fighting and killing to take over Mandalore. These red Super Commandos were led by Gar Saxon, who had horns on his armor to entice fear into his foes. By the Clone Wars, Mandalorians wore symbols and other signs of their clan or other affiliation, and while sometimes the warrior would just pick a color they liked in general, sometimes in Legends at least, these colors were known to imply these ideas. Gray meant mourning a lost love, red was honoring a parent, black for justice, gold for vengeance, green for duty, blue for reliability, orange a lust for life, and white was supposed to represent a new start. But now moving into the Empire era, when the Empire took over the galaxy in 19 BBY and the planet of Mandalore was seized, the Super Commando Gar Saxon became the Imperial Viceroy, who alongside his fellow commandos wore a new, sleeker design of armor created by the Empire to show the warriors' new status against any non-loyal Mandalorians. This armor was white and red with a different visor than the previous Mandalorian Super Commando variants. The armor was even tied closer to the Empire as it had obvious visual similarities to Stormtrooper armor, especially with the white coloration and everything. But when the Empire's forces at Mandalore were defeated by Ezra, Sabine Wren, and Bo-Katan, they realized they wouldn't be able to take control again, and then commenced the Great Purge of Mandalore, which ravaged the planet's surface with the TIE bombers. One Mandalorian tribe that was afflicted with the Children of the Watch was hiding in an enclave on the planet of Navarro, but was forced to leave after they tried to help their fellow Mandalorian Din Djarin escape from Imperials. The Children of the Watch was a sect of modern Mandos that believed in never taking their helmet off, as well as many other rules from the the ancient way of Mandalore that had become outnumbered by the other Mandalorians who had altered the rules over time. Din Djarin, who was a member of this sect, originally had his own unique durasteel armor that he then transformed into a full silver set of Beskar armor that made him a highly durable and powerful foe in battle. Other than this, his armor was pretty standard with a T-shaped visor and all except for one of his pauldrons, which showed his Mudhorn signet. The armorer was another member of this sect that had her own unique gold helmet with the small round female visor as well as 5 small horns at the top. She also wore bronzium armor and a fur coat, and was also equipped with many weapons including a gravity hammer and tongs, and you can actually see her using this against enemies in The Mandalorian. In Legends, in 130 ABY, by the Second Imperial Civil War, new, powerfully designed armor was worn by Mandalorians including Hondo Kar and Tez Vivek, which had a new, segmented look and a unique visor. So the Mandalorians really just changed their armor over the millennia, to be honest, and it went from these, crazy looking huge Neo Crusaders to the more sleek and modern designs like the Death Watch. But anyway, that's it for this video. You can subscribe if you want to. I upload every Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and I also post shorts on Saturday. But yeah, see ya.